I had all plans to talk about something else this week, and I promise you, we will get back to that, and I will show that video next Sunday. But I had to address the things I'm going to address in today's conversation. Unlike my usual step one, step two, tip one, tip two format, today I just want to talk about Black people. It's time to exhale and be motivated. Annie's Blue Couch. Yeah. Hello, everyone, to all of you, Annie's crew. Welcome back to the Annie's Blue Couch. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today. Now, before we get into today's conversation, I want to remind you to please like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and as always, please do me a huge favor and share this video with at least 2 of your friends. Considering the obvious fact that I'm Black, please understand that I may interrupt the regularly scheduled programming of Annie's Blue Couch to share my thoughts on being Black in America. I won't apologize for it, but I will always give you fair warning at the very beginning so you know what you're getting into. Today's one of those days. We often think of slavery as something so far removed and so distant from our present. As a Black woman living in America, I have to be honest and say I fell in that category until last year. 2020 was an eye-opening year for me. I cried so much about what had come to the surface regarding white privilege and the unveiling of racism still being ever so viciously alive in America. Last Monday, we celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it has not hit me ever the way that it hit me this past Monday. When I first started this channel, I started with conversations with my children on what racism means to them as it relates to being Black. You can check out those conversations by clicking on the link right here, and I'll leave it in the description box below as well. After speaking with them, I realized that our schools in America teach us about the same Black people every single year, and we get 1 month to celebrate it. I think somehow it's supposed to shut us up and make us feel loved, remembered, included, maybe even safe. But America is far from safe for Black people. And I know that hearing me say that may resonate with some as me being extra. Because I've heard white people say Black people should get over it, or it's the past, let's move on. I want to read an excerpt from D.L. Hughley's Surrender, White People. During my video entitled 5 Things to Do During Quarantine, I made mention of it. I put an affiliate link in that video, but I'll add one to this description box here as well. This excerpt comes from page 58. The history of racial violence in America is so crazy that white people don't believe it when they see it. The first episode of HBO's The Watchmen started with the Tulsa Race Massacre, but a lot of people thought that it was made up. They didn't know that it was depicting a real event where hundreds of Black people were killed and 35 city blocks of Tulsa, including Black Wall Street, were destroyed by white vigilantes. Why isn't this in the history books? Why don't more people know about it? It only happened in 1921, but it was buried and whitewashed. Not a single person was punished. So they won't give us justice, but they'll give us a TV show. And he goes on to discuss a couple of things. And then he says, a lot of times you don't know it because it's so horrible. No one would admit that it happened. It's so horrible, you go, that's bad. It can't be right. It is right. All of this happened in America. And the book goes on to list horrific, untold stories documented and available everywhere but our textbooks in school. There's so much that has been buried. Both blacks and whites don't know. But it was disgusting. It was disgraceful. And when some people talk about making America great again, I'll repeat what I said on an Instagram post last week, that those people are referring to an America that does not include me or anyone who has the same skin color as I do. Ruby Bridges, who was the first African-American child to desegregate an all-white elementary school in Louisiana, spoke on television this past Monday. Her being alive hit me hard, so hard that it made me change my plans on what I was going to share today. And the reason is because her being alive forced me to come to grips with the reality of how close we actually are to that period in America. November 14th, 1960 was her first day of first grade. She had to be escorted by federal marshals to her first grade class. There were mobs of white people protesting, viciously yelling obscene things to her family. And I said 1960. That was just a little over 20 years before I was born. She was just 6. I can't ignore her being alive today because it reminds me that her classmates are likely alive also. Many of which, if not all, had been taught by their parents, by society, by the culture, by the America that we're living in, that black people are inferior and undeserving of everything, including education. Just 2 years before that, Clennon King applied to the University of Mississippi and was committed to an asylum. The judge ruled that only insanity could make a black man think he could apply to the university. The only insane thing about this story is that ruling. And that's 63 years ago. That's not a long time ago. Some of you watching this video right now have parents older than that. So to all the white people asking us to just forget about it and move on, we can't. If for no other reason, because there's still things happening today that reflect this very near past. So what's the point of me talking about all of this? No, I'm not about to start a secondary breakout group of Black Lives Matter, but I do want to, from time to time, swing back to this topic because so many times awareness is brought to a particular problem in our society, and then we all scream for a little bit, and then the noise dies down. The noise quiets down until another unnecessary black body is lying lifeless. Now, I am fully aware that every white person alive in America is not a racist. The 44th president of this country was a black man. Black and white Americans put him in office. And our 46th vice president is a black woman. That says a lot. We have accomplished much, but there is still much to be accomplished. That's why we can't forget and why we can't just move on. D.L. Hughley's Surrender White People is about bringing awareness to all the history of African Americans in America. Not just the history white America is comfortable sharing. I want to read one more excerpt from this book, and it comes from page 66. This is a cry for an apology for lynching. So fine, maybe we'll never get reparations for being slaves. But what about the violence and lynching directed at us? After slavery ended, it's not as if the former white supremacists who ran the place welcomed black folks to the lunch counter. According to researchers from Tuskegee University, more than 4,700 people were lynched between 1882 and 1968. That's 4,700 people killed in the reimposition of white terror, especially in the South. And almost none of the perpetrators of that violence were brought to justice, nor were their families compensated in any way. On February 26, 2020, the House passed a revised version of the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act. For those of you who do not know, Emmett Till was a 14-year-old black boy who was accused of whistling at a white woman, and that caused him to be lynched. This revised version of the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act was passed by a vote of 410 to 4. Those 4 represent the much that still needs to be accomplished. As of January 2021, no anti-lynching bill has been passed by both houses. Black people, don't let the noise die down. Even the smallest indication of racism cannot go unaddressed. And white people, join the chorus to let freedom and equality reign, because we can't do it without you. Until next time, remember, you are beautiful, you are special, your smile is amazing, and don't let anyone or anything ever make you feel less than who and what God has designed you to be. Annie's Crew, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Bye for now.
Annie's Blue Couch.